Hello everyone and welcome to the SCHistory Channel. I am Anna.
And I'm Callan. Today's breaking story revolves around the Atlantic slave trade, and the truth about people's knowledge of the subject is revealed.
We've spent some time conducting interviews with regular teens of the hall. The latest fall on teen knowledge might just surprise you. Here's footage of Callan reporting in the field.
Hello, I'm here with
Cassie Dunn.
So Cassie, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
I have no idea.
And do you think it's still important today?
Nope.
Thank you very much. So I'm here with
Michelle Seiblers.
So Michelle, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
It was the trade of slaves across the Atlantic Ocean.
And do you think it's still important today?
No, because slavery is abolished.
Thank you very much. Hello, I'm here with
Nina Coffin.
So Nina, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
Well, I suspect it was the movement of slaves from Africa across the Atlantic Ocean to points in the Caribbean and the U.S.
Very good. And do you think it's still important today?
Well, it's important to be aware of the history of our people who populate this country and the possibilities that there's conflict that arises from that history.
Very good, thank you. Hello, I'm here with
Allie Lazarus.
So Allie, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
I don't know.
Do you think it's still important today?
Possibly, but I'm not sure what it is, so I don't know what it is.
Fair enough, thank you. Hello, I'm here with
Harrison Tracy.
So Harrison, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
Well, in my understanding, the Atlantic slave trade was happened in like the 1700s, and it's when Europeans would go down into Africa and they'd enslave innocent Africans and ship them off to North America and the Caribbean for work as slaves.
And do you think the slave trade is important today?
I don't think so, because slavery has been abolished, and now slavery for the most part doesn't exist anywhere, and therefore the slave trade is kind of irrelevant.
Thank you. Hello, I'm here with
Taylor.
So Taylor, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
It was the trade of slaves
And
throughout the Atlantic.
and is it still important today?
Yes,
Why?
because we get a lot of things from the Atlantic slave trade.
Very good, thank you. Hello, I'm here with
Janella Collette.
So Miss Collette, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
The Atlantic slave trade was the forced migration of Africans, mostly from Western and Central Africa, to the Americas. So they were generally sold to European slave traders. This was between the 1500s and the 1800s, and they took the Middle Passage to the Americas, where they were sold and enslaved.
Very good, and do you think it's still important today?
It is still important today because it shapes race constructions in the Americas still. So if I had to pick the most important reason, I would say that's probably the most important, is that it's still shaping constructions of identity in the Americas and all over the world.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, some were very well done and educated answers, some not so much.
It appears that in these halls, information is skewed, and people are just not as educated on the topic as they should be.
Let's cut to the forecast of reason with stormy weathers.
Thanks, Anna. Today's forecast calls for a 90% chance of truth bombs dropping in a neighborhood near you. We've got a fact front moving in that's carrying all the contributions and the importance of the Atlantic slave trade. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Stormy. That was a very truthful forecast.
Yes, it was. So after the shocking results of my interviews, I think it is needed to set some things straight. Anna, do tell them, what was the Atlantic slave trade?
What an excellent question. The Atlantic slave trade was the trade of African slaves and other goods across the Atlantic Ocean. This trade was dominated by Europeans who shipped off slaves to the North, South, and Central America, along with the Caribbean islands. In your opinion, Callan, why is it important?
The real question is, why isn't it important? Against popular belief, the Atlantic slave trade does have importance today.
For example, when was the last time you've eaten a yam, a watermelon, or even an eggplant?
Believe it or not, all of these yummy foods have African origins. When the slaves were brought across the Atlantic Ocean, they brought with them culinary traditions. By the early 1700s, ships transporting slaves began to bring with them African foods.
These foods found their place in our modern American cuisine and are regularly consumed by people everywhere without knowledge of their origin.
If you think about American history, influences from the Atlantic slave trade are present. Racial relations and issues were a very big part of American culture.
All important racial struggles in America, civil rights, emancipation, and abolition, have their roots in the Atlantic slave trade.
Racial prejudice dawned when African slaves were brought to places where they were inferior to the Caucasian race.
Throughout history, this mindset, held by those who believed and still believe they are superior to those with African roots, has caused racial tensions that are still visible today.
Right, but it doesn't stop there. Religions such as voodoo and arts such as basket weaving, wood carving, and quilting have their origins with the Atlantic slave trade.
Also, the songs that you sing with your teammates, the ones when one leads and the rest follows, those are a great example of call and response music, which also had its origins in the Atlantic slave trade.
That's all for us tonight. From all of us here at the SCHistory Channel, I'm Callan.
And I'm Ada. Now you know your history.
Good night.